live. Everybody quiet.
Welcome to Search Talk Live with search engine optimization and marketing experts Robert O'Haver and Matt Weber. Powered by the Robert Palmer family of companies.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Search Talk Live. I am your host, Robert O'Haver, and with me is Matt Weber of Roar Internet Marketing. Matt, how's it going?
Really great. Robert, how you doing?
Good. How's business?
Business is doing fantastic. Very fortunate about that. Now, a lot of people don't know by looking at you, but I think you celebrated a birthday recently, right?
Oh, man, you waited to do that on the air, didn't you? Yes, I did. It was the second.
Well, happy birthday. And what did you do? What did you do? Shark fishing, parasailing, cliff diving?
No, I went to dinner.
Dinner,
I watched a movie.
Movie, right?
And that was about it.
Oh, okay. Life in the fast lane.
Yeah, every day I get older. There's one day a year I celebrate.
But you look good, and I'm glad you had a good birthday.
Thank you for mentioning that. So today, guys, we are switching gears. We've been doing a lot of SEO talk, and today I am so excited to have the guest we have on today, because I'd say every episode, about 80% of the episodes, someone mentions her name, and I'm really super excited to have her on. Today, our guest is Lisa Buyer. She's the CEO and founder of Buyer Group, and she's also the author of Social PR Secrets, as well as one we're going to talk about during the show as well. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to be on and flattered that other guests had mentioned my name. I heard a couple and I get so excited when I hear them, like, wait, that's me.
You know, it's also really cool that you actually listen to the show as well.
Yeah,
I think that's
of
awesome.
course.
Yeah, and you're a rarity in another way. You're in the same time zone as we are.
Yes. Same.
I'm on the same time zone. I'm on the same highway.
I can't tell you the last time we talked to somebody that was even in the same time zone.
Right.
So how cool that you're actually in the same metro area that we are.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Do we think it's cool or not?
Well, today, no, 93 degrees, major humidity, not very cool. But glad to have you on the show and really excited about some of the advice that you're going to give our listeners.
Yeah, so Lisa, let's get what I'd like you to do is tell everybody that who doesn't know about you.
It's a small group.
Yeah, it's a very small group. But would like you to tell us about yourself, a little bit about your background, and maybe about the book you have coming out soon.
Yeah, definitely. So my backstory is this. I come from a traditional public relations background, and I was an early adapter of bringing in digital to public relations, which sounds so antiquated now, but it was during the whole .com era, and my agency was a corporate communications agency with a twist of branding and visuals. And we started to get, I was located in South Florida, which happened to be a little bit of a hotbed for tech companies and especially .com companies. So we started getting a lot of those types of clients. And, things in the PR world up until that point were very slow moving, and campaigns, took 6 months, a year, and press releases took like 6 weeks to write, and tons of approval processes. We went from that to having to take things very quickly and get media attention because things were happening. So, companies were trying to get funded and go public and, get eyeballs on different brands to get the investment community excited about it. So we had to figure out really quick how to shorten these campaigns. And so I just, my team at the time, Google had just come out and we figured out how to leverage, and we didn't even know we were using SEO at the time to get our press releases more visibility, but we were doing, using the hashtag with the stock signs, and just really now they're no big deal. But at the time, that was kind of how I got started in it. And I started to become super fascinated with how now public relations could be taken to a whole new level thanks to digital and search. And then I started just learning as much as I could. And I was like, hey, wait a second. Public relations could actually be super influential on search results because public relations is basically content. And if you optimize the content, we can, game the system in a positive way to reach your audience and reach the media. And, kind of that was the start of it all, where I had that aha moment.
It's a really good topic for today, because if you look at some of the latest information about Google signals, they're telling us that prominence, which could be a mention that doesn't necessarily have a link, is a signal. The value of citations is decreasing, and all that is pointing to there's value in getting your brand mentioned online. What tips can you give SEOs to help them get their brand mentioned online?
Well, I mean, public relations is a pretty powerful tool to get your brand mentioned online. Like basically, all publications are digital, and most publications that were not digital only had digital versions. So just having what I'm going to call, quote unquote, a traditional public relations editorial calendar and strategy, and creating some sort of a news making piece of content each month, and pitching that to journalists, and also putting it out on social, and making sure that your news is optimized with your brand name, and keeping that in mind. That's going to leverage more visibility, not just in search, but also in the social channels. So looking at Facebook as a search engine, looking at LinkedIn as its own search engine, Twitter, they all have different types of search engines and different types of ways to optimize. It's not all size fits all, but on Instagram, Instagram has its unique ways to get found, and just making sure that you're educated from a very basic search level can help optimize whatever content you're writing, whether it's an article or whether it's a caption, or even optimizing photos.
Yeah, and then also you mentioned a calendar, and so I would have to say that persistence and consistency are vital. Right.
Yeah, no question about it. The calendar's critical, because I think the average business owner listening to the show, or the SEO listening to the show, it's something they do kind of last minute. Oh yeah, I got to do this. But if it's pre-planned and pre-thought out, it really gives you a leg up.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people listen to Lisa's answers right there, and they said, "Oh, I got to write a press release." But really, a press release has changed in the last few years. What makes a good, in quotes, press release today versus what was a good press release pre-digital?
Right. Well, I mean, and we're talking to, the SEO world about press releases, and, the history of press releases in the SEO world has, the impact has changed. And, used to, press releases were all of a sudden this like candy, that SEOs were loving to use, because it was like a way to really, kind of game the system, and it turned out to be, in a way that it was so overused that we were penalized for doing press releases to a certain extent, right? So press releases today have to be newsworthy. I mean, you have to have a component of news behind it. You can't do a paid press release, for example, on a distribution for example, using PR Newswire or Business Wire or e-releases, without having news behind it. So they're not going to let you do a paid press release unless there's some legitimate news. So you can go that route and do a paid, which I recommend doing a paid press release once a month, just to keep your name out in Google News, and keep whatever your keywords are, keep them searchable, associated with your brand name. So for example, I'm doing a paid press release tomorrow, announcing I just launched a passion project of my own called Female Disruptors. So it's a news site featuring female entrepreneurs who are in a doing disruptive, positive things in their industry. And so, if you're launching something, a press release is perfect. You want to make sure you get the word out, get it out to Google. Journalists are starting their search and confirming their story topics using Google. So journalists are using Google for everything, and they're typing in whatever keywords they're writing. If they're writing a story on, CBD or water-soluble CBD, they're going to search water-soluble CBD. So you want to make sure that you're strategically using your keywords wisely and effectively and topically in your news releases and articles.
So you talked about creating a newsworthy story, which is, there's some great examples of this online. I was reading an article about a Swedish hotel that created a money-back guarantee for their honeymoon suite. So for a year, if you got a divorce after booking the suite, you got your money back. Kind of clever, right? I mean, and you could see where that would be a juicy article and that would get picked up. So you've talked about creating a newsworthy event. How do you pitch something like that to a journalist, and where do people go wrong in pitching their story?
Well, I think let's just start with where they can go right. And I think one way to look at it, like it doesn't have to necessarily be news that's happening within your company or within your brand or a product launch or something super salesy. If you just monitor trends that are happening, for example, just, the SEO world or, social media world, if Facebook makes an announcement about Facebook advertising and you're a Facebook advertising agency, then you can comment on that and you could be first to say, this is my point of view and this is why I think this is going to work, or this is why I think this, this sucks, type of thing. So so journalists are always looking for not just the news from the brand, but also the point of view from a source. And typically, try to stay away from, you don't want to get crazy dangerous, but you also don't want to say vanilla type of really, what everybody's saying type of comments to get quoted related to some sort of a news story. So you want to say something that's a little bit out of the box or unique. And it has this effect, like once journalists, reach out and use you as a source, then other journalists see that you've been used as a source. And then the same journalists that use you as a source, if you were easy to work with, they're going to remember you. So it's also a relationship building process besides just, optimizing with, search and keywords in mind and keeping it newsworthy. It's also building relationships and using that to your advantage.
And that's really the advantage that people have when they engage with a company like yours. You've built those relationships. You have those all lined up. You know what I'm saying, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I also want to control the expectations, not just working with my agency, but working with any PR agency.
Sure.
That you have to just be careful with the promises made of the relationships, because relationships are important, but in today's day and age, there's so much changeover on the journalist side and reporters. They're jumping from one beat to another.
Yeah.
They might it's hard to know everybody and have a relationship with with like you used to be. Let's just say 10 years ago when it was more of an offline world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the key is really being able to identify the right publication or the right outlet or the right reporter that is going to match your story, and because that's really the ticket. And if you could get their attention in a non-spammy, very approachable type of way where they can easily digest what you're trying to pitch to them, that's really the ticket. So it's almost like a personality trait also, to be able to really kind of break through the clutter. Like you hate when salespeople call you, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of PR people calling the media at the wrong time, and they're just having these long-winded pitches. They're going to get hung up on.
Yeah.
I think Lisa's given me an idea for a newsworthy event for our show.
What's that?
World's longest continuous podcast. The record is only 41 hours.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think I could
You
do
guys
that.
can do it. You can do it. Just hope we don't have a hurricane or something like that.
Yeah, get a couple sound-alikes. We don't have to worry about lookalikes. We do a couple sound-alikes.
There we go.
Yeah, so all we have to do is figure out who our celebrity sound-alikes are, and then we can get this done.
Yeah, I had a client once that he did a radio show for a year, and then he went back and chopped up a bunch of episodes and made another year.
Oh, and just repackages in the year, yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
Lisa, when we talk about journalists, we kind of have to broaden our definition now, because journalists may be valuable, and they might, but what about influencers, people that aren't technically journalists as we used to think of them in the non-digital world? How's an SEO find the influencers online that they can pitch their content to?
I mean, that's becoming, just like you said, it's like a whole category in and of itself. And it's a very similar but not exact process of pitching journalists, because the influencers they're not journalists, and they typically, have their own businesses or gigs and the influencing part is just kind of almost like a side hustle. Not always, but it just depends.
Right.
So, I mean, I recommend this even for PR. I mean, there's a lot to be said for not like having to go to all the bells and whistles of some sort of a platform or something. You really just have to do the research manually is really the best way, and figure out, make a short list and a long list of who the potential influencers might or could be, and then just start really just reaching out and connecting with them in a, on however you see. It's very similar to the media, so figure out, like, is the journalist or the influencer heavy on Twitter? Then you want to send them a DM on Twitter. If are they on heavy on Instagram, then reach out through Instagram. And that's really the best way to be where they are and start the conversation where they are.
Nice. Now, Lisa,
everything happens now in the DM, even with PR.
Yeah, I don't want to switch gears too much, but I did have a question that a listener had asked me to ask you, and they're a content writer. They're conspiring to be to the level that you've become. And I wanted to know what advice you would have for people that want to be. I mean, obviously you're in PR, so you have PR'd yourself, basically, I guess, But what would be your advice?
You have to repeat it. Sorry, you cut out.
Okay. So I have a listener that wanted to know what they can do to get to the level that you've become or come to, where, as far as, like I mentioned that, 80% of the people mentioned you as an influencer, and they want to become that influencer. What would be your advice for those people?
Okay, sorry. For some reason, you're cutting out completely.
What advice would you give to somebody who's an aspiring, top-notch PR person like yourself?
Okay, so the advice that I would give to somebody that is in PR today is to break out of the PR shell or boundaries, because what I see happening is, and I was teaching a class at University of Florida for the past 4 years as an adjunct, so I saw a lot of aspiring PR students graduate and go out into the real world. And regardless if you're just graduating or wherever you are in your career, break out of the PR shell, go to search marketing conferences, go to social media conferences, go to internet marketing conferences, go to vertical conferences, go to just break out. And so you can learn from people that aren't necessarily in your exact profession, and you're just broadening your horizons, and then bring that back into how you can leverage that with PR. Go to the podcast. There's going to be the podcast conference here in Orlando in a couple weeks. Go to that,
You wrote a great post not that long ago about great online tools for writers. What do you recommend as some of the best online tools for writers?
There's so many, but one that is kind of just a tried and true is Grammarly. And so Grammarly has a free version, and then they also have a paid version. And the paid version is just it's like magic. So it's basically like having, a built-in editor that's going to catch all those very obvious, but not so obvious, maybe redundant words or grammar that is maybe not completely wrong, but could be upgraded. So I always recommend using something like Grammarly. I love that. There's also another writing app called Hemingway that is not as mainstream, or maybe a lot of writers or just in the search industry have not heard of. But Hemingway is also a great writing app because it gives a lot of suggestions and a lot of insights into the way that you're structuring, whether it's paragraphs or headlines. I also love CoSchedule, has a headline analyzer. There's a couple others out there besides CoSchedule that really also help in just coming up with a little bit more creative headline ideas.
That's a great one. Personal philosophy is you would rather win the battle of the headline than the war of the body copy, right? You want to win that headline. And I think that's a key to be a great headline writer, and that's a really great tool for a lot of people. Now, you've written about a writing technique that I'm not familiar with called Pomodoro. Am I pronouncing that right? Can you explain
Pomodoro, that? Yeah. And actually, Miranda Miller is who gave me the heads up on that. And if you haven't had Miranda on as a guest, I'm going to give her a hat tip to bring on because she's amazing. But yeah, so the Pomodoro method was invented maybe like 25 years ago, and the guy that invented it was from Italy, and he had like a Pomodoro tomato timer that he used. And so basically, the gist of it is that you give yourself an hour and a half to 2 hours, and you give yourself a goal that you have to meet, a writing goal in that amount of time. So it might be just like, okay, I'm going to write the outline, and give yourself that, that time break, and then you give yourself 15 minutes to take off, and then you come back to it, and then the next part might be, I'm gonna write the first 2 paragraphs, and it really is super effective. I've actually brought it into my team, and I had my team train on using that method. It also breaks it helps eliminate distractions if you're working in an office, which a lot of people work remote now, but every month I try to get my team together all in one place. And if we're all working together, just so that we can have, like, let's just say an hour and a half of like, okay, we're going to do the Pomodoro method, and we're going to just work for an hour and a half, and everybody's going to put their headsets on and not talk. And we all think of what we're going to get done in the next hour and a half as a goal.
So it's like high intensity training for writing. It's like intervals for writing.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And, writing also, you can sit in front of a computer screen all day long and, think you have writer's block and think you can't, you just can't get anything out of your brain onto the page or whatever. But I mean, one thing that is proven, and that is, you need to find the time of the day that works best for you. And when you're going to have the least distractions, and when that you're gonna have like the most capable output. And typically, this isn't for everybody, but typically that time is very early in the morning, and that's when you have your quote unquote flow. I don't know if you've read anything by Stephen Kotler, but he is in a partnership with one of my clients. So had the pleasure of interviewing him, and he's the expert on getting into your flow mode, and whether you're a writer or a musician or you're an athlete, and you find that moment of flow. There's certain things physically and mentally you have to get your body to that point in order to get to that like optimal moment. And so finding your flow, for me, my flow is in the morning very early, and I make it a point to just get up an hour or two before all the hustle and bustle starts, and I get so much done. And writing is one of those things.
Yeah, I agree with you. And having worked with a lot of writers and having been paid to write a lot myself, one of the counsels I give is let's chunkify this, right? People take the whole writing assignment and they get stymied by it. And so what I try to work with them on is let's break it down into parts. And one of the key parts of that I'd love to get your comments on is write the outline first. And it just seems like today writing an outline is a lost art. People don't know how to write an outline.
It's so true. For me, I write with, I can't write, if it's an article or whatever I'm writing, I have to have the headline. Like I have to, even if it's a caption, I have to have what the first 3 words are going to be, and that kind of frames it for me. But when I'm writing an article, writing, I just call it like the H2 or H3, the subhead, and then the smaller subheads. It makes it so much easier. And so I always tell my team, I'm like, just show me the outline first. I want to see what your headline, subheadline, and your H3s are going to be throughout the article, and that from that I'll know, okay, this you're on the right track. But like to sit and write 800 or 1,000 words without an outline, and then even the person that's proofing it, you're looking like, where does my mind go? Like if you don't have subheads, it's almost like not just us. I mean, basically everybody is now trained to read in bullets, right? Or subheads and small tiny chunks, and you can't get that out of a tool. You have to just know manually that is the way that people want to read, and that's going to be the most effective. Even Google wants to be able to scan something and know, okay, this is topical, this is going to work with this website. And so it's not just it's not just us, right? It's the search engines.
Yeah, Robert, I want to get an SEO perspective on this topic from you. Do you, Robert, write the metadata for a page first and then write the body copy, or do you write the body copy and then write the metadata?
Opposite. I do the content first and then the metadata.
So you take your keyword target and your related keywords, and then you write the body copy.
Right, because it relates to what's in the story, and I want to, I like to have it written out before I do that. It's just just the way I do.
Yeah. I've worked with people who do both ways on that, but I was interested in your perspective on that. And Lisa, to you, where do you think people really need to find their inspiration? You talked a little bit about writer's block and talked about getting with the flow. What's your main solution when you're just stuck? What do you do when you've got to find that next gear?
What I find to be very effective, and I give this advice too to my team, is there's a digital way to do it and there's an offline way to do it. So I'll go to Starbucks, or I'll go to Publix, or I'll go somewhere and I'll just like scan the magazine stand or the newspapers. I'll buy the Wall Street Journal, the USA Today. It doesn't even matter like it doesn't have to be relevant to what I'm writing about. Just looking at headlines and looking at kind of the style of how they started and how they ended, the conclusion, gives me inspiration. And I can do the same thing. I'll go, if I'm on just online, I'll go on BuzzFeed, I'll go on Mashable, I'll go on some of the like a little bit more creative types of news sites, let's call them. And it's super inspirational because you just then get ideas for, this is what I'm writing, and I can do a headline that's like similar to that, or that concept, or that style. So that's just like super easy, accessible way to get inspiration is to also read, for example, up until this summer, I probably have not read a fiction book in probably 2 or 3 years. I'm always reading, just business books, self-help books, it seems like, marketing type of books. And so this summer I read a couple books. One of them was Big Little Lies. And that actually was super inspiring, just the style of the writer and her tone, and like how she kind of like broke up and formatted the pages and the type, everything that she did. Like, it was super creative, and it gave me inspiration for the book that I actually just sent to my publisher called Digital Detox Secrets. I actually got some inspiration from a fiction book just on the layout and putting certain things in italics to give it a little bit of a twist, so that it's not in the same font, and it's giving it an emphasis that when the reader's reading it, it's it's just giving it more dimension. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I don't want to rain on anybody's Netflix binging joy here, but Robert, you tell me if you agree with this. I have never or rarely met someone who's a really good writer that is not a vociferous reader.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that.
Yeah, the more you read, the more you put into your own mental stew when that stuff sticks and when you need it. That inspiration is there, those words are there, the eloquence is there. It just comes from being a vociferous reader. I think most of the great writers I know are really heavy readers.
Yeah.
It's so true. It's so true. And I mean, I think there's just, also something to be said for, fiction. I know so many entrepreneur friends that all they read, like the same, as me, is I got into this track of just reading every new business book that came out, every self-help book that came out, or every health related book, or it just wasn't fiction, but it just, there's something to be said for kind of getting lost in translation of, another world, and how, writers take you on this journey.
Yeah, now I say that, but I am going home tonight to finish Orange is the New Black. I should disclaim that.
All right, well, I think it's time to take a break real quick. When we get back, we're going to do Who Influences the Influencer. And Lisa's where we're going to ask you, who influences you, basically.
Perfect.
Because you're the influencer. Right after these messages. Bye-bye. We'll be right back. Bye-bye.
Today's episode of Search Talk Live is sponsored by...
Hey, Robert. You're here early for the show.
Yeah, I got a ton of SEO work done this morning, and I got it done way ahead of schedule. Couldn't have done it without Ahrefs.
Yeah, so much easier than using multiple programs and having data in a bunch of different places.
Plus, being able to see what is holding a page back from ranking in Ahrefs is so much faster than picking through each part myself.
Oh, yeah, I agree. We use Ahrefs because it's so easy to teach people at our agency how to use it. Their YouTube tutorials couldn't be better. It's one thing to have a tool. It's another thing to know your team is using it to its full capacity. I don't think there's an easier, more complete tool than Ahrefs. Hey, Robert, why don't you hit them up to be a sponsor of the show?
I am way ahead of you.
Ahrefs, the official SEO tool of Search Talk Live. Try their new 7-day trial for only $7. Go to Ahrefs.com. That's Ahrefs.com.
Your website analytics data probably feels like this. But it could feel like this. Making sense of all the website data available to you hasn't been easy until now. Smialytics transforms your website analytics data into easy-to-understand, memorable photographs. You pick your own photo theme. Smialytics. S-M-Y-L-E lytics. Like analytics. Only happier. And it's free at smialytics.com. Want to know how your website is doing? Get the big picture with pictures. It's the easiest and most enjoyable way to understand your website data. No charts, no graphs, no cost. Sign up today. Smialytics. S-M-Y-L-E lytics. Like analytics. Only happier at smialytics.com.
Get your questions in on Twitter. Type hashtag Search Talk Live and your question. Now back to the show.
All right, we're back. Now, I am monitoring Twitter, so if you do have questions for Lisa, you can type hashtag Search Talk Live, and we will answer or have Lisa answer the question live on the air. All right, Lisa. Now, we want to know who influences you.
Wow, that's a loaded question. So
You can't say your husband. I'm just kidding.
you guys are major influencers to me, but also
Wow.
Kat Howell is. I've been following her for a couple years now, and she hosts. She has a couple online courses, Facebook groups. She focuses on Facebook advertising, but she's also very inspiring and motivational entrepreneur. So I'm extremely influenced by her. Also, Larry Kim. I collaborate with him on a bunch of projects, but even before that, I've been friends with him since he started WordStream, and we were doing PubCon together, speaking on the PubCon circuit, and he is just he amazes me on the entrepreneur side, and then also just the content he puts out, and how he's able to start these companies and also just put out amazing, in my opinion, amazing content, amazing social media, channel output that it's not just focused on one topic. He's inspiration on all different levels.
Nice. So the first one was Cat Wow. How's that spelled, please?
Cat, C-A-T, Howell, H-O-W-E-L-L.
Okay.
I'm rearranging our favorite guests of the year list because she gave us as an answer. She's gone to the top of the list.
Larry Kim is one I've been wanting to get on the show, and I've reached out to him on Twitter, never get a response, so I don't know. But I'd love to have him on.
He would be a
I can
phenomenal
help.
guest.
I can definitely help.
Great. It's fantastic.
All right, so let's move on.
Hey, Lisa, you wrote a really interesting piece not that long ago, and it was about a subject that I think frustrates a lot of people listening to the show. It was about trolls, and it was interesting to me because not that long ago, Google kind of said, vaguely as they tend to do, that you ought to put your comments back on your blog because they might look at comments as an indicator that if people are using the comments, they're engaged, and they might be using your website as a source to get their questions answered or a source to get information. So engagement in comments might have been a good thing to them. But we all know what happens when you turn comments on a blog. You get those people, right? Air quotes, those people. You get those trolls. And you wrote an article on how to handle that.
Or just people trying to build links.
Or just people trying to build links. But how do you handle the trolls, the people who take advantage of that?
Being in the public relations world, I mean, that's part of almost like, sort of crisis management when trolls attack. And a troll could be even somebody that is trolling on Yelp or Google reviews and just going to all the review sites, or it also, the different types of trolls that happen under the comments in blogs, and also the comments on, Facebook ads and Facebook posts and Instagram. And, you don't have to be a celebrity to be, really taken down by trolls if you let them. So, yeah, the article that I wrote is just basically categorizing all the different types of trolls from, the one that's the, perverted, sex, type of troll that is just talking like ridiculous talk, and then ones that are just trying to, just take you down for whatever reason. And they're, you have to, you can't get taken down with them is basically the bottom line. And you have to be able to, just manage your psyche with them.
Confession time, Robert. Have you ever been a troll?
No.
I never have either. I just don't have the time in my life to devote to that.
Yeah, it's stressful. I mean, I have not. I've been lucky enough to not be on like the front line of it, but I've had clients that have been, and it's really, it could be very, 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 very frustrating, especially if you're spending money on ads and the trolls are happening on your ads that you're paying for.
Yeah, I think in this one time I do sympathize with celebrities and just casually breezing through some Twitter feeds and Instagram and what people say. I don't know that I want to wake up to that every morning.
Yeah, that was
no.
Yeah.
So, Lisa, I want to touch on a little bit about knowing your audience. I mean, and when I say that, I mean, not every company is going to want to be on every social media outlet. I mean, you got to know your audience and where they are. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Oh, sure, definitely. And, it's funny because I work with all different size brands and companies, and I would say the biggest hole in a marketing program or a PR program is, and there's just not enough time spent on building out your personas and really understanding that, and putting even the persona is also the media, and what does the journalist look like that you're targeting, and what is the other audience personas? Who are they? What are their pain points? And the biggest mistake that I see is content that is mostly focused on the sales and marketing aspects of a brand and not focusing on the pain points of their audience, and just really getting to that, hitting home with that first, and almost like more lifestyle type content versus sales and marketing content, which is more top of the funnel type of content. But if you're today, I mean, it's all about really delighting your audience, and your audience doesn't care necessarily about your product or service. They just care about, do they feel like you care?
Yeah, Tommy Griffith was on the show from ClickMinded 2 weeks ago, and he taught us a new word, which he made sound like everybody's been using for years, was customer avatar, which has somehow replaced persona in the vocabulary today. But we did talk quite a bit about developing that customer avatar and how much time and discipline he spends on it. And it was a really interesting conversation with him about that. It's certainly something that I think most companies kind of round the corners on, talking about who their audience is in kind of vague terms. But you can't really write helpful content unless you explicitly know who your customer avatar is. Would you agree?
Definitely. I mean, you need to have like the picture, the avatar right in front of you, and just be able to almost like visualize it without just in your sleep, just, and everybody that's working on your team needs to be able to completely identify with that avatar 100%.
Yeah, I think where I was trying to go was, let's say you have a customer that sells the scooters for disabled people. Well, they're not going to advertise on Instagram, right? You know what I'm saying?
You got to find the right platform where your audience is going to hang out.
Instagram skews younger adults than you would your seniors, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think that it's so you definitely have to. I just wrote an article for Search Engine Journal about. It was actually part of the ebook, so it was one chapter on emerging trends in social media. And one of the trends is that multi-networking is out. So, you need to pick your network that your audience is on, that your avatar is on, and that's what your focus is going to be. Not to say that you can't be on, have some secondary ones, but you can't just try to be one size fits all. And it's impossible. It's almost, like just to compare it to the analogy of public relations, you can't be putting your news out to as a generalist,
right.
You have to niche, find your niche and really get super focused. And those are the writers that are going to pick you up because they want to serve their audience. They want to serve their, they want their life is going to be made simple if they feel like you can help them write and relate to who their audience is.
Speaking of pain points, I think a pain point for our audience is reviews. I mean, more and more time per week is taken up with the average business, struggling with what to do with reviews, how to handle reviews, the good ones and the bad ones.
Right.
Lisa, what counsel do you have for people in today's era where reviews are so influential? How does a business handle reviews?
There has to be a plan for sure. There has to be a proactive outreach plan for reviews. It's no longer just, it's the hair salon, it's the plastic surgeon, it's the restaurant, it's the luxury builder. My husband is a luxury builder. It's the service B2B companies. We're starting to be more focused on reviews and being proactive, because there's crazies out there, number one. So you need to, and this isn't new advice, but it's become higher up as a priority across the board. Mm-hmm. So the advice, for the past X amount of years is you want to make sure that you're being proactive so that you can claim your page one search results, so that if you get, bad reviews on whatever sites, that's not going to, you're going to be kind of insulated with some good reviews. So that's still the case, but take that across now every channel. So you need to have a proactive type of campaign to try to gain as much positive reviews as possible and have them populated, so that there's going to come a time, and Yelp even says this, that it's not normal to expect 100% 5-star reviews. If, let's just say, it's Yelp, mm-hmm. Somebody is going to look and say, okay, that's kind of gamified. So people expect to see some bad reviews. So I wouldn't let a couple of bad reviews get you down. I mean, that's just going to be good customer service advice, and actually an opportunity to turn somebody into a brand advocate if you handle it properly. So the bad reviews could turn into a good thing if you are paying attention and monitoring and making sure that you have a plan in place, so that you're responding in a very timely manner. People at least want to be heard. They want to be acknowledged. And then, take the opportunity to possibly turn a negative review into a positive review, depending on the situation. That's not going to work every time, for sure. And there's platforms out there that help manage all of the reviews in one place. So I work with a platform called Birdeye, and you're able to set up in a dashboard format, where you're getting your Google reviews, your Facebook recommendations, your Yelp reviews, and let's just say it's TripAdvisor. I think they integrate with something like 300 different review sites, but whatever works for the brand. And it just makes it easier to manage all reviews in one place, be able to respond, be able to pass them off to somebody else if somebody else needs to chime in, and also develop what I was saying earlier, the proactive outreach campaigns, so that you can, in a very not cheesy way, solicit good reviews to people at the right time. So if
right.
you have a let's just say a list of emails of people that had good experiences that month, you can send an outreach email to them as a campaign and try to get some positive feedback to build up the positive reviews.
Do you support templated responses to bad reviews? Pre-written templates?
Template responses?
Yes, for bad reviews.
Publicly?
Yes.
No. I mean, I think that a template response to a negative review is going to just be a recipe for disaster, potentially. Not every time, but I think having a very personalized response and making sure that, what you're saying publicly is it's not so much for the person that wrote the negative review, it's more for the people that are reading the negative review and then reading how you responded to it.
What's your thought on that, Robert?
I would say it needs to be personalized. I don't believe in templated. Now, I do believe in a workflow that says, almost like if it was like a Salesforce or something like that, where it would automate an email after you're completed the service with them saying, hey, how did we do
for the solicitation.
Yeah, for the solicitation.
Yeah.
But as far as if they come back with a complaint or something, that would be hands-on.
You know, I do encourage templates, and I'll tell you why, is because I think a lot of the folks that are handling negative reviews are business owners, people that aren't really skilled in writing. And if you've ever watched Jimmy Fallon's YouTube videos about where he reenacts Yelp reviews where business owners get into a debate with reviewers online, which is, you know, A, hilarious, and B, sad at the same time, I think a lot of these people take their business so personally, they don't know how to divorce themselves emotionally and just put a response out there that says, hey, I'm so sorry. Let's take this conversation offline. We're going to do whatever it takes to satisfy you.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm sorry. I misunderstood where you're going with that. For sure. But I'm just saying it
That makes sense.
Yeah.
to customize it somewhat so that it's not obviously just a templated, like, automated response where they know it's a bot. Something that at least shows an acknowledgement, and then if you can go back and circle back and personalize and for sure take it offline. But yeah, I mean, you small businesses need guidance and direction. So to have, you know, whether it's a template that was like a custom-made template for your specific industry or restaurant or a B2B business, then that's great. But just something to make it so it doesn't sound too bottish.
Yeah, because you're walking into a fire, so you need as much flame retardant gear on as you possibly can. It's a really interesting issue for me because today one of my clients got his first negative review. Devastating. Crushed. And he wanted to go on. He's like, how do I log on to my GMB? And I'm going to write these and tell them that I think it's not fair. And, you know, got it. Appreciate the fact that you're upset, which is awesome.
Yeah, but you also have to put on another hat. You have to put on that customer service.
Exactly.
The customer's always right.
You got to depersonalize it. And, it's a very difficult thing to do.
Don't attack the customer.
Yeah.
Well, it's almost like, you know, and I don't know if you guys do anything with meditation or yoga, but they teach that you have to be the observer and you can't. And so when you're getting in that situation, you can't be so personally impacted by it. You have to kind of be your own outside consultant, if that's possible.
Yeah.
And look in instead of like reacting emotionally.
Yeah. Sometimes I meditate during the show, which makes for bad shows.
Look, Matt.
I think that reviews, though, in 2019 and 2020, if you think about what are the critical business skills needed to survive, succeed in 2019, 2020, I think being able to handle online reviews is one of those critical skills now. They're becoming more and more influential.
Oh, it's definitely in the past year or two has become just, it's unbelievably important. And, you know, even myself, you know, I'm looking at reviews more than I ever have when I'm deciding on, you know, anything from buying something on Amazon, but also going to a restaurant, also buying something that typically I would never even have looked at reviews. If there's reviews available, I will look.
Yeah.
And it definitely influences my decision.
I mean, another place, too, that, you know, if you're on social, let's say you're on Twitter or Facebook, and you have to have somebody watching that. I mean, to me, a bot is ridiculous. I've run into some bots on Twitter Facebook, you know, where they have the instant message chat. Oh, unbelievable annoying.
Yeah. Would this be an awkward time to ask people to leave a good review in the comments under wherever they're getting the podcast?
Yeah. So, but I mean, just being there to answer those questions if they have questions.
It is.
Or,
the consumers today want answers now.
Yes.
Right? And it may be as simple as they want to know, do you sell this particular product? Do you do this particular service before they move on to that next level of engagement?
Right.
And I think digital marketing is as complicated as he who gets the searcher what they want the fastest wins.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, today, you know, there's positions that are, you know, social media engagement manager, you know, just managing engagement and just not even, you know, there's so many different positions that didn't even exist 2 or 3 years ago as a result of, you know, digital and social.
Yeah, and to me, I think they're underappreciated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's dollars and cents there.
They don't realize
in those
it.
interactions.
Yeah.
There's dollars and cents. There's sales in those interactions.
Yep.
Hey, Lisa, we're getting ready to go toward the end, but I do want to get your take on hashtags. You know, a lot of people, to me, either overdo the hashtag thing or they underdo the hashtag thing. Like I see people do a post and they've got 25 hashtags on it trying to get somebody's attention. Give us your take on how do you research the right, most valuable hashtags to use?
Well, it depends on which platform you're talking about, but I always am going to circle back to, manually looking at, for example, if you're trying to do some sort of an influencer campaign, or looking at what your competitors are doing or looking at what the influencers are using. That's one way to do it. I would just go platform by platform because each platform is different. So what's going to work on Instagram won't necessarily work on Twitter, and definitely the number of hashtags aren't going to be the same. But I'm a fan of hashtags in general because it's a way to get more exposure and get reach when it's done right and when it's done strategically. So I don't get not using hashtags. Because it's basically like leaving money on the table. I come from the organic brain. PR, I equate to organic search. So I'm always looking at ways to leverage and get more reach and more exposure organically through the different media channels without having to go to paid. But, if you can do well organically and produce and publish content that works organically, then you're going to do better in paid.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree. Hashtag good advice. Hashtag words from expert.
All right, I think it's time for Believe It or Leave It.
Believe it or leave it, one of the most popular parts of Search Talk Live, Lisa. We're going to give you 3 statements that we found on the internet. Yes, they are actually there. And we're going to ask you to tell our audience whether they should believe it or whether they should leave it. Are you ready?
Ready.
All right, here comes number 1. A good press release should be at least 800 words. Believe it or leave it.
Leave it.
Why?
Well, there's a reason why most of the distribution services are 400 words or 500 words. It's because first of all, journalists don't have time to really read that much in depth. And you need to use brevity to your advantage and just get your point across. And you can always link to the longer form content. I always recommend linking to longer form content on your website from a press release. So I like the press release to be the shorter version and the longer form content to be hosted on your website or blog for the full version.
All right, so I like that. So that goes from the other thing I was going to ask her about, should you post it off the site or on, both. Yeah. All right, so question number 2. Posting all the press releases you write on your website bring a lot of SEO value.
It's kind of a trick question.
Tell us
So I always recommend when you do a press release to post the longer version on the website and the shorter version do a paid press release if that is going to work within your budget. But I don't recommend doing a press release every day or just doing a press release for SEO.
So to clarify that, is that a snippet of what you wrote on the website, or is it separate, totally different than the rest of it that's on your site?
The press release version?
Yes.
So I like to change it up. So I have, just a little slightly different headline, a slightly different intro, but the news is basically the same.
Okay.
So,
maybe a different image so that it doesn't look the exact same. It just gives it a different dimension.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is you're not copying the first 2 paragraphs
No.
or whatever. Okay.
So an old school
No,
technique.
I do different versions for, for social and use emojis and, as much as possible, just try to
Hashtags.
try to completely, reinvent the story in different ways visually and also, just using creative formatting and words.
See, an old school technique that you still see appear somewhere is in some websites is under their navigation where they've got the About Us section, and then they've got a blog, and then they've got a separate piece of navigation that says press releases, and they just, in their WordPress site, they just copy and paste every press release they've ever sent out in that section. Still happens. That does not have the value that it used to have in the day.
Right.
No, that I would be interested to see what the Google Analytics looks like on, if they get any type of visits to that even,
Yeah, a few people go out of their way and go, man, I got to read some press releases today.
Early SEO days, you used to pop a press release out and your site would rank, and then
Yeah, like 24 hours. Yeah. All right, Lisa, believe it or leave it. Number 3, following more industry-related people with your company Twitter profile will bring SEO value.
I'm going to leave it.
Tell us why.
I think that you need to, there needs to be, like I said, like relationship building and conversations and things like that. It's not just about following.
Yeah, and that's straight from somebody's blog post, by the way. And, I think it was like 12 ways social media can help your SEO. And that was one piece of advice. And I thought, how does following people bring any organic ranking value, even if they're experts?
Yeah, I mean, I think
It could be some
maybe
influencing
10
marketing type of thing.
10 years ago, people were paying more attention to every follower they got, maybe. But now it's, just so much has changed that I don't think I mean, maybe there's a part 2 to that whoever wrote it didn't put the part 2 secret sauce on that goes on top of it,
Yeah, because the act of following itself,
Yeah, no.
nothing. Now, if you're pushing out content after you've attracted those followers,
Right.
okay, now we've got
Yeah.
a technique there. But just the act of following them,
Yeah.
no
No.
value.
No.
Yeah.
Great stuff,
I mean,
Lisa.
I would say, I even get nervous if like my clients are following too many people, versus how many followers they have. It's like you want to have this balancing act and you don't want to seem like the crazy follower,
You don't want to look like a troll.
Yeah.
Right.
You want to be wanted. Yeah. All right, well, I think we're getting down to the end of the show, which means it's time for...
The Search Talk Live tattoo.
So, Lisa, your best, most succinct piece of advice that you want to leave our listeners with that is tattooable. And I want to remind you that Robert does get all of these as tattoos, so keep in mind our ink budget here. It's not as big as it used to be. So what's your best, most succinct piece of advice you can give to our listeners?
My best advice is if you are handed it, handle it.
I like that.
That's kind of deep. Tell me what you mean by that.
Well, I mean, if something falls on your lap, good or bad, you got to handle it.
Yeah.
The buck stops here kind of saying?
Yeah.
Say it one more time.
If you're handed it, handle it.
If you're handed it, handle
I see
it.
a T-shirt there.
Yeah. That's a tattoo. That's a T-shirt. That's a brand.
That's
If
right.
you're handed it, handle it.
You heard it here first, guys.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, you can't have a business without having that mentality.
So true.
Now, Lisa, for the listeners, please tell us about your new book and when it's coming out and where they can pick it up at.
Okay, cool. So my next book coming out in September is called Digital Detox Secrets. I've been working on it for about 2 years. I've been talking about it for about 3 or 4 years. And it's basically about how to find balance in our digital world from a work-life standpoint. So it covers social, work life, and personal life.
Nice.
I
And
may
then
have to get that.
in the first book you put out, tell them where they can get that.
My first book that's out right now is called Social PR Secrets, and that you can get on Amazon. It's in its 4th edition, and the foreword is by Guy Kawasaki, and the introduction is by Sarah Evans.
Guy Kawasaki. Wow.
Nice.
That's another person I'd like to have on this show.
Yeah.
I was blown away, like, when I was watching, what was it? It was probably 5 years ago, but The Network, when that came out.
Yeah.
And Guy Kawasaki actually wrote that about, no, it wasn't Social Network, it was Steve
Steve
Jobs.
Jobs.
Steve
Yeah.
Jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy. He's like,
And I'm like, I know that guy.
I know, right? Yeah, he's doing a lot of surfing these days.
Yeah, I talked to him once and something happened. I don't know. He never got on the show, but I'll probably reach out to him again. Anyway, thank you so much, Lisa, for being on the show. If someone wants to reach you or go to your website, check out your company, where can they go?
Yeah, so I have a social PR agency, and it's called The Buyer Group, and you can reach out to me at thebuyergroup.com, or you can find me on Twitter at Lisa Buyer, Instagram at Lisa Buyer, or connect with me on LinkedIn.
Do you own lisabuyer.com?
I do.
Nice.
Nice to talk to a fellow Central Floridian who's sharing our love of the humidity here. Great to have you on the show.
Yeah, we'll have to meet for happy hour or something, and Celebration or Disney World or somewhere.
Absolutely.
Would love that.
All right. Thanks again. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure having you on, and I hope everybody tweet this out to their friends and family and not their family, but people that are...
Use the right hashtags.
Yes.
Hashtag social PR.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you.
Bye-bye,
Bye,
everyone.
guys.
All right.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, everyone. I want to thank you. I think this is one of our greatest shows we've had. Lisa on, because she's always mentioned, like I said, and it's been great.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Search Talk Live is sponsored by the Robert Palmer family of companies. If you have questions for Search Talk Live, or you're interested in being a guest or a sponsor of the show, email Robert at searchtalklive.com. That's searchtalklive.com.